I've got Frank Bordeaux, chairman of the Mississippi Republican Party, joining me live in studio. Frank, how are you this morning?
Very good, Ashley. Thank you for having me on.
Frank, you're an old friend. It's good to see you this morning, and always good to see another Coast guy in Jackson. We got to keep them in order up here.
No doubt. You got a Coast Day today.
That's right. Absolutely. Coast Day. So, Frank, I'm sure you were there at the debate last night. I'm sure that's been a big topic of conversation with you and your circles. What were your thoughts on the debate last night and on the governor's performance?
I think the governor did exactly what we knew he would do. He's a very good debater. We know that he knows the facts. We know that he is very proud of the record that Mississippi has, and I think he did a very good job of conveying that record. Unfortunately, in these debates, there were some punches thrown. I think the governor did a very good job defending his record, and it's Mississippi's record. It's the Republican legislative record. And so when Brandon wants to attack us on our record, he's attacking the entire Republican delegation in both the House, the Senate, and the governor. And so we have a lot of good things going on in Mississippi, and we're going to continue to articulate our record and our vision for the future of Mississippi. We've done it from the very beginning, and our opponent has continued. 12 months ago when he got in this thing, he started hitting right from the gate on issues that did not affect the governor. And we were able to put that out clearly that the governor's not involved in these issues. The governor's governing. And I think Mississippians saw that, watched it last night, or are going to watch it today, or whenever they have time to watch it. They're going to see on one side there is a calm, cool, collected governor, and on the other side there's a bully. And so I think that the governor did what he had to do. And at the end of the day, Mississippians are going to come back home and come to the all you have to do is look around Mississippi and see the success. Job growth, record unemployment, record high graduation rates. Our public schools are doing great. Huge investment in job force training. And so all those things that we see as Mississippians every day, whether you're Republican or Democrat, you see Mississippi is better today than it was 4 years ago. And under Tate Reeves, will be better 4 years from now.
I think a lot of us that watch politics and, for me, it's almost like a spectator sport. I mean, I'm just a political junkie. I love that stuff. And we probably anticipated that last night would be a fiery debate, sort of, similar to what we see with a lot of the attack ads, that are on television. They started off talking about the Medicaid issue. And one of the first things that occurred to me, after the governor's response is, you guys obviously knew that Medicaid was going to be a hammer that the Presley campaign was just going to hit you with over and over and over. And I think it really speaks to what my experience has been with Governor Reeves is he's a man of principle. Because it would have been easy, and frankly, a lot of politicians in Mississippi history would have just walked back from that and said, "Look, I'm just going to go ahead and take care of that so that can't be used politically against me." But Tate Reeves made it very clear he does not believe that Medicaid expansion is right for Mississippi, and he stuck with that despite it potentially being a political liability. Talk a little bit about his views on that and sort of the way you see that issue unfolding.
Yeah, so I mean, it's very similar to his approach to public education. Is Mississippi for years and years and years threw money at the problem, and it wasn't directed towards anything. And then the Republicans under then Lieutenant Governor Tate Reeves invested money into the classroom, put money from the district office into the teacher's hands, and then we passed third grade. The same approach is the approach he's taken to health care. It would be easy to just pass Medicaid. I mean, that's the easy answer. But we look at the states around us that have done that, and they're having to cut budgets in other areas of the state to make up for the money that they're now spending that they didn't anticipate to spend. And so being first at everything, the first out of the gate to implement a policy isn't always the best thing. And the governor is going to work hard with professionals in that industry, and he's done that. His health care plan that he rolled out a month or so ago, that's $700 million. You're going to see other states that are going to adopt his same policies. But he wanted to make sure it was vetted and it was a program that will actually work, that can actually get passed, and will be good for everybody. And so he will take that approach. He's working with the hospital administrators and trying to figure out this problem. This is a problem nationally, and it's not unique to just Mississippi. And so we have to find nurses. And the legislature did a good job this past year of incentivizing nursing. And we're going to continue to do that. We're incentivizing doctors in Mississippi, and we're going to try to grow our doctor pool. Those are big issues as well. And so the one thing that I think that he pointed out last night, it is easy to say we're going to expand Medicaid. If we expanded Medicaid, we would lose folks that are on current insurance right now, and those hospitals will make less money because the Medicaid reimbursement is less than private insurance. And there's a lot of Mississippians right now that can get on ACA that qualify for ACA, and it wouldn't cost them a dime, and those benefits would be greater.
You know, it reminds me a lot of what I saw back in 2003. I was a young journalist working in the newspaper business when Haley Barbour ran against Ronnie Musgrove. And, of course, during that time, medical malpractice reform, tort reform became sort of the big issue of the day. And Governor Barbour went throughout the state really hitting Musgrove on we're going to see doctors' offices closing down because of malpractice insurance costs. It's going to hurt hospitals. And it's almost like the same type of playbook, but this is a much different issue. And so, I always say, Frank, politics and governing are completely different things. Politics is sound bites, it's marketing, it's easy. Governing is hard. It takes, as you said, getting in the room with decision makers and people who are affected and dealing with sometimes lots of imperfect options. What are your thoughts on the ability to govern between those two candidates and based what you saw last night on the debate stage?
Well, there's no question. Governor Reeves has relationships with having a supermajority in the House and the Senate, and so he has governed with them. In many cases, he served obviously in the Senate as the lieutenant governor, and so he has relationships. They are going to continue to govern. The governor, throughout this entire campaign, has not taken his eye off the ball of policy and governing the day-to-day operations of the state of Mississippi. I do want to go back to one, and you brought up the tort reform, and I think that's a very valid point, is a lot of things that Governor Reeves and the Republicans are doing right now, we're not going to see the benefits immediately. But tort reform was one of the biggest economic development tools the state of Mississippi has ever passed. Governor Barbour doesn't – obviously, we're proud we passed it, but I'm not sure that people realize to what extent that has been a tool for economic development in Mississippi. And there are policies that we're passing, that we're doing right now, that we hope has that same multi-generational effect that's positive for Mississippi, of bringing jobs to Mississippi. Look, our friends in Arkansas have a supermajority Republicans over there. They're still trying to figure out how to pass tort reform. So we did it way before it was cool to do, and it's been a huge benefit to Mississippi. Governor's working on those same type of issues.
We've only got a few seconds here before we go to break, but tell me a little bit, how did the governor feel coming out of last night? What was his attitude, his mood last night?
We felt great. We as soon as we got out of the spin room, we all convened, talked about it. Everybody was very positive. The governor felt good. He was calm and confident when he walked in. He was calm and confident when he walked out. Governor Reeves, he's not going to be a flashy politician. He is a policy guy. And I think that steady hand that we saw last night is what Mississippians want to lead us in the next 4 years.
Well, you're absolutely right about that. I mean, there are politicians out there that are great retail stunt politicians, and there are folks that are policy wonks. And in my experience with the governor, he's always been a very thoughtful, deliberative, sober guy. He's not a guy that just says yes to the first thing that comes in front of him. He vets things. He analyzes them. He talks to people.
And he's not afraid to say no, even to his best friends. And so I know that firsthand.
I do too. I agree with that 100%, Frank. And
that's important, to be able to say no.
It's interesting. We're not just electing a governor in a few days. We're electing a government, because the governor will appoint so many people that will ultimately make up the government of Mississippi, the regulatory groups, the boards and commissions. Tell me a little bit about Tate Reeves' philosophy as it relates to how he makes appointments and the people he will put in to govern Mississippi.
If you look at the folks, and this is something that the governor hasn't said, this is a Thad Cochran thing that he has said. if you're looking for an appointment, you're probably not the right person. A lot of the folks that he has appointed are true professionals that took pay cuts to come work for state government. They never were seeking an appointment. And those are the kind of people that you want there. You want professionals that leave their private sector life to go work for the state of Mississippi for a period of time that brings their expertise. And the governor's done that. I will say, and if we have a couple seconds, one thing that a legislator down on the coast told me that he talked to one of his constituents that was supporting Brandon Presley, he said, if something were to happen to one of our senators, Roger Wicker or Cindy Hyde-Smith, would you want Benny Thompson to be appointed United States Senate? And that person took the sign out of the yard. This has bigger implications than just the governor.
We're listening to Frank Bordeaux, and we'll be back after this break live in the Element Well studio. Frank, just stick with us. We'll have another segment here.
Perfect.
Thank you so much. You're live here with Ashley Edwards, guest hosting for Gerard, and I have in the studio with me Frank Bordeaux, chairman of the Mississippi Republican Party. Frank, you're a political pro. You've been around this a long time. You've done this a long time. How much do you think the debate last night moves the needle?
I think a lot of the folks that were watching the debate, were Tate Reeves folks or Brandon Presley folks, but there are those independents out there. And I think that, as I said earlier in the earlier segment, if you're looking for a steady hand and you're looking for somebody that understands state government, I think those folks will break towards Tate Reeves after that debate. Obviously, I'm biased, but I do believe, in just judging by the text messages and emails and Facebook messages I've gotten, some of those folks were definitely on the fence, and they are 100% for the governor. And so I don't believe debates are the be-all, end-all, especially these days. Everybody's got so much other things to do. Typically, it's just the politicos that are really tuning in. But in this particular election, I think that folks are really starting to pay attention. And the good thing about, right now, we feel in the Republican Party huge momentum coming our way at the right time. There are people that are waking up that see that this could be possibly a close race, but it's a close race if Republican voters don't show up to vote. And so we're focused on GOTV. Thousands of volunteers are making phone calls, knocking on doors, and even our surrounding GOP partners in Alabama and Tennessee, they're getting engaged. And that's indicative of what the Mississippi Republican Party did for Virginia in Youngkin's race, when we literally had more volunteers in Mississippi making phone calls and out knocking doors for Virginia. They're reciprocating to us. We all understand in Mississippi how important this is, but we also see the onslaught of out-of-state money coming in. In Mississippi, that's what's really woken up the Republican base. They don't like this Mississippi's trying to be bought by California or New York. And that's not just talking points. That's really happening in real time. $12 million, $10 million of which has come from out of state. Some of these donors are very, very questionable donors as far as they're completely conflicting with Mississippi values. And so that has woken up our base. Everybody's working hard. Look, I went out to the warehouse to get signs to deliver. Our warehouse is empty of signs, which is a good thing at this point in time in the campaign. But we just have to keep being motivated, keep our folks mobilized, give them a task to do. They will do it. And the good thing, we're not having to pay these people. Brandon's having to spend a ton of money buying friends. I mean, it's purely in his text message that he's sending out to people, $40 an hour to introduce me to your friends. We're not having to pay $40 an hour to introduce the governor to Mississippians. Mississippians know our governor, and we have a lot of volunteers working in all 82 counties. And that's one of the focus that the party has had. Lucian Smith did a fantastic job. We've had great chairmen in the past that have really been focused on building our party. Over the past 3 years, we have built our party. Our clubs have grown. Our women's groups have grown. The Mississippi Federation of Republican Women, they are working the phones every day, every night. And that's something that we have in Mississippi as a Republican Party that the Democrats just don't have. And out-of-state money isn't going to buy that.
Let's talk a little bit about Republican voters. As you well know, a statewide election like this really is a lot of small regional elections. And Tate Reeves is going to probably do really well on the coast. It's going to give him some buffer. Brandon Presley is going to probably do well in the Delta, northeast Mississippi, where he's from. When you look at sort of what's going to happen in the various regions of the state that will ultimately decide this election, what do you kind of predict based on what you're seeing and where Tate is going to be really strong out of the gate?
I do believe that we're going to be stronger than anybody gives us credit for in Northeast Mississippi. I've spent more time since I've been chairman in Northeast Mississippi than anywhere else. Look, those folks are mobilized. They're excited. They want to elect a Republican governor. I think that's going to be the big surprise of the night is Northeast Mississippi, where Brandon expects to do well. That's going to come in strong for the governor. Obviously, I believe the coast is going to come in strong. We need good turnout on the coast. We need good turnout in Rankin County and Madison County and DeSoto County, obviously. But all these small counties, Scott County is turning from Democrat to Republican. That's going to be those smaller counties that are turning Republican are going to be a huge help, and we're not taking those for granted. We're going to every county, and if you watch Governor on Facebook, you watch me on Facebook, we are everywhere, and we're going to continue to do that. We're not taking off the gas anytime between now and next Tuesday. We have full schedules, and we're ready to work.
I was watching some of the post-debate coverage from the spin room last night, and the question was posed to Governor Reeves, and I'm paraphrasing, but, how confident are you of a win? And he said, well, you tell me who's going to vote and I'll tell you who's going to win. And I think that was a very pragmatic way of answering the question, because at the end of the day, turnout is going to determine so much if Republican voters get out. And one of the names that was invoked several times last night was Donald Trump by both candidates. Obviously, big news this week, the Trump endorsement for Governor Reeves. One of the things that I was thinking about as I saw that Trump endorsement, and I will say from the beginning here, if I was betting money on who's going to win the presidential primary in Mississippi, I would put my money on Donald Trump without hesitation.
That'd be a safe bet.
So I think it's going to help Tate Reeves a lot. One thing that Brandon Presley has really done is he's tried to appeal to that crossover, maybe center-right Republican voter that isn't an ideologue to say, switch over and vote for me. Do you have any concern that the Trump endorsement could actually hurt with some of those folks that may still be in that undecided camp?
I really don't, because if you look at the folks that have endorsed Governor Reeves, obviously Donald Trump is the big name. But we also have Haley Barbour, which is a big name. We have Trent Lott, which is a big name. And we have all of our statewides. We have former Congressman Harper. We have our congressional delegation. We have Senator Roger Wicker, Senator Hyde Smith. And so Republicans are coming together, and we are a big tent. And so you may not like one policy that we have or one person that has endorsed, but you're going to like the whole of it. And so Republicans are going to come home. If a Republican is upset about a single policy issue, I believe that they're going to come home to vote Republican because they're scared of the 99% of the other votes that Brandon Presley's going to take.
In a few minutes we've got left here, Frank, we've obviously talked a lot about the governor's race. There's not a lot of contested races sort of across the state, certainly not on the statewide ballots, but some of the local races that really are key to you. What are the races that you're going to be watching on election night?
So we're watching, there's several legislative races, there's several sheriff races. And one phenomenon that we've noticed, especially this cycle, is there's a lot of traditional Democrats that have taken off the D and put on an I. And so we're looking at some of those sheriff races where we have a good Republican running as sheriff and they're running against an independent. There's some circuit clerk races that we're looking similar situations. But if you look at the state as a whole, and Austin Barber, who's a great friend of both of ours, he really digs into the numbers. And he did a really nice spreadsheet to show the math in the state of Mississippi as far as contested races, but who's a Republican. There's not a lot of contested races, both on the Democrat side and the Republican side. A lot of things were decided in the primary, but the math benefits the Republicans. And so we're going to continue to reach out to all Mississippians. Obviously, we want to win down ticket, and we're going to let more Republicans this cycle than we've ever elected in the state of Mississippi, from supervisor on up to the governor. And we're very proud of that. And we have been focused. And the Mississippi Republican Party has put as much resources as we have into some of those down-ticket races and get-out-the-vote efforts.
You know, if Governor Reeves wins a second term, he's obviously going to be term limited out. And so in 4 more years, we're going to have an open race for a new governor. Part of your job is to build that Republican bench. And I know elections like this are so important because you're really getting those next Republican stars that can move up. Give me some names, folks that you're watching that you really see as being those next Republican stars in Mississippi. Maybe the listeners haven't heard of them before, but folks that are really on your radar.
Look, we have a deep, deep bench, and we have a lot of great folks that are talking about running. Some people, it kind of feels like 2027 elections already started. I want to focus on this election. But look, we have fantastic legislators that may want to move up and run statewide. Obviously, Briggs Hobson comes to mind. Everybody, he's appropriations chair. He's been a great leader. And who knows where our current statewides are going to want to go? Is Michael Watson going to want to stay Secretary of State, or is he going to want to run? Is Andy Gibson going to want to do something? So I don't want to speculate. That gets into primaries. My role is not to pick in a primary. We beat Democrats, and so I'm going to stick to my role. But 2027 is going to be a very interesting year in Mississippi politics for sure.
Well, I know you're going to be busy as heck for the next several days, Frank. I hope very sincerely that you get a good vacation after Election Day, but you never know.
My wife is going to make it happen.
We may have a runoff. Frank Bordeaux, chairman of the Mississippi Republican Party. Frank, thank you so much for joining us today, and best of luck to you over the next several days. Good seeing you. Good
talking to you. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you very much. We'll be back after this break. Live in the Element Wealth Studios, I'm Ashley Edwards, and you're listening to Middays on SuperTalk Mississippi.